Hello, everyone.
Can I just say, I always love how you greet everyone because you do this, and I think it's cool. It's like your trademark now. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
You totally you ruined my vibe. Completely ruined my vibe. If you are joining us today, my name is Jody with Grace and Faith. And this is my husband, Patrick, who liked to make a grand entrance into my video. We thank you for joining us today on our next topic of the anxiety series that I have been doing. Today is kind of a different format than what we have done in the past. I decided to write a letter to my husband about anxiety and what, just an open letter. You see those on social media, like an open letter to my husband about fill in the blank. And so I wrote one of those today and I read it to him, and it got us talking about coming live and doing this video just to have an open discussion about some of the things that I said to him and how we can help other people who might be in similar situations. So before we dive into that letter, I kind of have a plan because my anxiety, if you have not watched our previous videos, you have learned that I like to have a plan and I know where I'm going. And Patrick is the type that's like, let's just go with the flow. So I kind of have a plan of things that I want to cover, and he will probably take us off topic quite a bit. So let's dive in. Before I share the letter that I wrote to him, there's a couple questions that I wanted to ask you as a spouse of someone who struggles with anxiety. Just some questions to help people understand.
Not multiple choice.
Not multiple choice. And as I've said in previous videos, please understand that anxiety is different for every person. And so the things that I said to my loved ones in my video is different or will be different for each person that could to write that letter to their loved ones. So please understand that what we might say today could apply to you and your loved one, or it might be a little bit different. But we just wanted to bring up the topic and encourage people to talk about this because I feel like that was really important.
Along with that, this isn't in your notes since I just thought of it. That can change from moment to moment.
True.
Like what we found in our marriage is like, yeah, I know that you deal with anxiety, but like one situation 5 minutes ago, we're good. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I got to recalibrate because
my emotions are different.
Yeah.
My anxiety is
Emotions,
at a different
that's
level.
A good word.
Yeah. So that's a very good point, is moment by moment could be different. And if you have a spouse or a loved one struggling with anxiety, it's important to know that their anxiety levels are fluctuating moment by moment, truly moment by moment, by what's going on in the brain. So my first question is, what has been or what is the hardest part of my anxiety for you?
I think what the hardest thing is understanding what it is that you're going through. And I'm not even sure if that's a possibility or not, but trying to calibrate my emotions in accordance to how you're feeling at any given time with your anxiety been challenging is a good word, and multifaceted. And I still think that I'm in the beginning stages of that. We've been married almost 15 years, and it's probably within the last year and a half that I've even tried to take proactive steps.
Well, but I also feel like it's been in the past year that we've really identified that I struggle with this as much as I do. And so it's kind of been like more reality for us to understand that it is something that I struggle with, and then to even process that for me, and then how that processes with you as well.
Yeah, so I think that's the hardest thing, is trying to get a grasp on what it is that you're experiencing and what that's like for you.
Right. What has been the most helpful, like what has helped you the most to try to understand what I'm going through? Now, I will preface this by saying we have not gone to any special like counseling or doctor or anything in regards to my anxiety. So we do have some history of counseling courses in the past that may help us navigate this road together, that we have taken courses on how to help people through different scenarios and how to counsel. But we have not done anything specific like that together in regards to this journey.
Yeah, so ask the question again. So
okay. What has been the most helpful to help you understand what I'm going through?
Okay. I think it's two things. The first thing is my understanding of I can't fix it. My personality, and I think a lot of men have this, especially when it comes to our loved ones, is that if there's a problem, then I'm going to try to find out a way to solve that problem and to make you not hurt anymore, or to make my daughters not hurt anymore, or to protect them from something. If I know that we have a bill coming up that we need to pay for, I'm going to pick up some overtime and solve the problem. And that goes for whatever. If the grass needs mowed, I'm going to send my wife outside.
I was going to say, don't you dare try to say on social media that you mow the grass, because that is mostly me.
But yeah, I think that's the main thing, is that I can't fix this. To understand that it's something that you understand is irrational sometimes and doesn't make sense. So me telling you that it's irrational and you shouldn't think that is probably not the best course of action, because it's not going to help or fix the situation. And the second thing is, I think I've grown into this a little bit. I think you mentioned those counseling classes, that I know that the Bible says that the spirit of fear isn't from the Lord. So there's an element to sin that is in this, and only it's difficult because, like, if I lust after someone who's not my wife, I know that that's sin. But with this fear, it's a medical thing, and it could be a sinful thing. But what I've learned, to answer this question, what I've learned is, it's not my job to try to point out sin in any of these particular situations, but to just try to speak truth and let the person that's experiencing, in this case my wife, that she can, with wise counsel, figure out if she's being sinful or if it's more of a hormone medical issue.
So there are certain things that are going to trigger anxiety. Like we talked about previously in some of the videos, poor nutrition. For me, caffeine is a huge trigger for my anxiety. Don't ask me how it works. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I don't understand all the medical terms and how that process is. But I know caffeine triggers my anxiety to go higher. There's medical issues that could be underlying that they, I watched a video the other day of someone who had severe low levels of vitamin D in level, I think it was B. Don't quote me on that. And that was triggering anxiety and depression in her. And so there could be some of that medical stuff mixed into this, but it also, like you said, could be a factor of a sin issue of not trusting in the Lord and fearing man or of this world rather than trusting in God's providence and his plan. So just to make that clear, there could be medical issues underneath this. He's not saying that you
don't get off the hook in all the cases, but you do need to take some time and with your spouse, not asking accusatory questions, but to try to walk through that and figure out if it's, medical, or if you're choosing to believe a lie because you think that you can do something better than what the Lord has given you.
Right. So, before I move into my letter that I wrote to you, is there anything else that you feel that spouses of a loved one struggling with anxiety should recognize that I don't cover in my letter?
Yeah, I think, and I'm still trying to figure this out, because when she's going through what are we calling them?
Well, like I have anxiety attacks or high levels of anxiety, right?
An emotional episode. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do, and
that can fluctuate from day to day as well, of what I need from you.
Right. So what I found out and still trying to learn and process is that a lot of times it's just being there and not understanding because I don't. Like that would be a lie if I say I understand what you're going through because I don't get it. But saying that I don't get it, but I love you enough to walk this thing out with you.
Right.
Even though I don't know what that means and I don't know what you're feeling. Like I'm here and sometimes that's all I can do.
And sometimes that's all I need. And we'll discuss that in the letter. So I'm not going to read this letter word for word. I will post it below and you can read it exactly for what I typed out. This was just my heart. There's probably things that I missed, but it was a spur of the moment. This is what I typed. So I'm going to talk about just a few of the things that I hit on when I was going through that is something I wrote in this letter is please know that when you're talking to me and I seemed distant or I seem distracted and I'm not focused on you, I'm not listening, it's not because I don't care about you or what you have to say. It's the fact that in that moment, my mind is racing with whatever is on my mind, whether it's my to-do list because I have X, Y, and Z to get done because I am a one-track mind. I need to get this stuff done before I can relax. Or it's our kids are outside playing and I can't listen to you because I'm watching every single car and every single person that walks down our road for fear that they're going to take my kids. Or whatever the case may be, my big toe might be hurting, which has been an issue lately. And he's going to laugh because that's been an issue. My toe has been killing me lately. And so it might be like he's talking to me and in that moment my fear has gone like I have some weird disease that causes my toe to hurt, and he can laugh because that's how my brain functions. And we've learned to laugh about some of this stuff. Some things I can laugh about, some things if I would have just said that and he laughed would have just crushed me. And he's kind of learned when I'm like that wasn't funny. And he's like, oh crap. That wasn't the right move, right?
That doesn't happen hardly ever at our house.
But in my letter, I was stating to him, when I seem that way, it's not you, it's me. I have so much on my mind that it's hard for me to focus on you and to focus what you are saying. And so I end it with saying please know that I recognize this. And I'm trying to listen to you. There's moments when, even sitting in church, there's moments when I'm trying to focus so hard on what our pastor is saying. And I have all of these things going through my head. And I mean, if you honestly were inside my head, sometimes it's scary. And for somebody who's experiencing anxiety, it's scary. There has been moments in my church, listening to my pastor preach, that I literally have to stop and pray and ask God to give me the strength to sit there. Because I'm in fear of whatever it might be, that someone's going to bust in and start, kidnapping the kids or shooting us or whatever that might be, or that there's going to be a fire. How am I going to get out of here? That is something that's on my mind almost constantly everywhere I go. How am I going to escape? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do? My mind is constantly in that state. And so if someone with anxiety is trying to talk to you, or you're trying to talk to them and they're trying to listen and they seem kind of distant, understand that that's going through their minds and that it's really hard for them to focus on you during that moment. And I'm getting emotional because my anxiety's through the roof just thinking about some of that stuff. Does that make sense? Do you see me doing that sometimes?
Yeah.
You're I don't know how to respond. I don't want to get in trouble. Shall we move on, or do you want to discuss it?
No, I'm good.
Okay. My next one. Hang on, I need a deep breath. Okay, my next one was, know that when I lash towards you, in anger with harsh words or frustration, a lot of times it's not because of what you've done, but it's because of my anxiety. When my anxiety gets through the roof, when I'm stressed, sometimes I will react harshly. Whether that's a quick, rude word, whether it's a raised voice, slamming of a door sometimes even. It's more of a way of my body is overwhelmed and I'm bursting with emotions. And again, it goes back to that sinfulness. Like, I should be able to control this, but I can't because there's so much pressure building up that you just kind of, it comes out as anger. So in my letter, I tell him, like, please know that if I am lashing out in anger towards you, it probably isn't always, sometimes it might be something that you've done. Let's just be real. But sometimes it's going to be because I'm just anxious and that's how my body reacts. And to just not to respond with harsh words back or with that anger towards me, because then when you respond with that anger, then it only creates more anxiety with me because I realize that I have failed you again, or I have failed myself because I don't want to respond that way. And then it causes my anxiety to get even worse, and then it keeps escalating. And so I again end that with, please know that I'm trying. I recognize that it's wrong. I'm trying, but it's really, really difficult sometimes.
I'm laughing because everyone watching this video is like, Jody doesn't ever get upset at anybody. Jody always smiles and Jody's always happy. You don't know what it's like. No, just kidding.
But honestly, but that I would say, you're right, like I'm able to, and I would think a lot of people who suffer with anxiety are able to put on the fake smile and get through it. Like, you would probably never know. Like, if I were not doing this video, most of you are probably sitting here saying, I have no clue. I had no clue that she suffers with this. I mean, and I'm just being honest. Most people with anxiety, they're ashamed that they're going through it. They feel like it's something that it's their fault, that they've done something wrong or they're doing something wrong. And it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. And so they feel very alone and very isolated because they don't feel like anybody understands what they're going through.
Yeah, so with that, when your loved one that has anxiety responds in a way that's uncharacteristic of how they would normally interact with you, then it's hard to do sometimes, especially if your feelings are hurt or if they use escalation words like never or always.
That's a big topic in our house. Don't use escalation words.
Is instead of reacting out of anger because of them lashing out, is trying to reverse engineer that from the sin or the action that has caused you to be upset, and try to walk backwards and try to uncover what it is that got you there in the first place and have a conversation about that. So this is more of a spouse counseling session that we've done before, but your spouse isn't your enemy, even if they treat you like that sometimes.
Right. We
We hurt the people we're closest to and love the most because we count on them not going anywhere. So they get the worst of the worst because they're the best of the best. So in those situations, it's not a competition and it's not a fight. They're not your enemy. But whatever that root problem is, that's the enemy that you both should direct your attention to. So walk it backwards from the tipping point, and sometimes that may be the next day or a day and a half later, whenever both of you are able to do that. But don't leave it unsettled,
Right.
and try to get back to what it was that caused that reaction in the first place.
My next one was, this one's a big one sometimes. When I don't want to go to a social event and or travel, please know that it's not you or the event, or that I don't want to go, but that it's an anxiety issue, right? So in my letter, I ask him, like, please understand that it's not always the event or that. But for us, one of the biggest ones for us is traveling. We love to travel. I love to travel. I hate to travel. And I know that it's really difficult to understand that. I love to be on vacation. I love to travel. But the thought process of traveling, of goes back to what could happen. Am I going to forget something? What if we get there and we don't have money? What if our credit cards don't work? What if we get in an accident on the way? Who's going to take care of our kids if you and I die in a car accident and we are now in North Carolina and in an accident and my kids are okay, but we're both in the hospital? Like, all of those things go through my head. So, like, if I'm getting ready to travel, just a heads up, the week before we travel, I'm a hot mess. So just stay away from me because I'm a hot mess. And so, but that happens. I'm not so much a social, I don't think I skip out too much on social events, but I know that's a big one for some people. The idea of going to a social event is the idea of traveling for me. Like, the idea of getting to that social event seems fun, but to get there is really difficult. Or some people, like, once I get on vacation, I'm okay, but then it's hard for me to get there. But some people, when they get to that social event, it's too overwhelming and they need to leave. So in my letter to him, it was just understand that this is a process for me. Patrick has done really well of understanding that. And so I would say, if you have a loved one who struggles with anxiety, understand that they need your support. Don't always support them in not going. There's been many of times that I've told Patrick, I don't want to go. This time last year, actually it was exactly this time because it's coming up on my time hop. This time last year, we left my girls for the first time since we had them, I think, for a week. And Patrick and I went on a cruise. It was the most terrifying thing for me. My anxiety was through the roof. I was scared to death. And I did not want to go. I think I actually said, probably like the week before, I think we need to cancel. And Patrick's like, no, we're not. So
actually, I may have said, you can go ahead and stay, but I'm going. So.
I think you did. And so, you know, I needed that push. I needed people to say, Jody, it's okay. It's healthy for you to leave your kids. It's okay for you to go. They'll be fine. Go. But it was a process for me. I needed a lot of support. I needed a lot of prayers. I needed a lot of friends reciting scripture to me and encouraging me. And so don't always support them to avoid situations that are terrifying to them, but help them process and plan. So when we left for that cruise, I had planned. I had processed very well. Patrick was very supportive before we left because I'm also very OCD. So I need my house perfectly clean before we leave. Like, every single piece of laundry needs to be done. Everything needs to be mopped and vacuumed. It's part of my anxiety that I have to deal with. It's that OCD part of it. And so Patrick's learned to be very helpful in trying to help me feel the most comfortable that I can. I mean, I'm going to be high on anxiety the whole time. But know, again, that we understand that it's hard on you as well. But we need your support through that. Anything to add to that?
I think you pretty well covered that one. Yeah.
So in the letter that I wrote to my husband of like, so what can you do? Right? So we've talked about all these little things. Some things you can do is, like you said earlier, you don't know what to do sometimes. You just don't know what to do. And sometimes there's just nothing you can do in that moment, except for to let us know that you love us, that you know that you're going to love us well through this, that you're going to stand next to us and support us. Like you said earlier, that we often will lash out to the ones we love because we know that they're not going to leave. But the person with anxiety, I can guarantee you that one of their thought process is, what am I going to do if my spouse isn't standing here? What happens when my anxiety gets too much for them to handle and now I'm alone and I have to do this all on my own? See, my anxiety is rising right now. If you didn't notice yet, my anxiety, when it goes up, I cry. When I'm mad, I cry. When I'm happy, I cry. So that's a sign of my anxiety at almost all times. But those thought processes happen all the time. And so just letting your loved one know, I'm here for you, I support you, we will get through this together, is a huge first step. Remind me that I'm not alone and that you'll let me through this, and let me know that you're trying. Like, to say, I don't understand what you're going through, but I want to try to understand. And sometimes I'm not going to be able to explain to you what I'm going through. Something that we learned with some of our counseling is just keep asking why. Like, why do you feel that way? Why? And you feel like you're repeating yourself 10,000 times. And the person with anxiety might be like, stop it, you're making it worse. But I feel like for us, we've grown a lot through having some of these conversations of like, for instance, yesterday we had a conversation, something totally that I was like, hey, Patrick, this is like something that you've been doing that I think we might need to address. And within moments, the whole topic switched. And I told him, we don't need to address this. This has nothing to do with you. I'm experiencing anxiety right now. And he was like, well, what's going on? Let's talk about it. Why are you feeling this way? Why? And I ended up crying and getting through it. And so it was like something like I was talking to him about something, but deep down inside, my anxiety was having issues with other things. So we couldn't even talk about I don't even know if we really needed to discuss the initial thing. It was more of my anxiety otherwise. So just love your loved one well and support them and let them know that you're trying to understand them is a huge first step.
I don't know if it'll work for everybody, but the key pro tip here for me, if you're a husband with a wife that experiences anxiety, is slow dancing, hugs, and kisses on the forehead.
That's very true.
No extra charge.
Yes. Yeah, that's huge for me. Like just that spontaneity. We talked about yesterday that a lot of times people with anxiety don't just have fun. Like I have to plan to have fun. And he laughs because that's me. Like I'm so goal oriented that I have to like write in family time here. But if he can make me laugh or to like he'll just stop in the middle and start dancing, slow dancing with me or whatever. If you can help provide some of those fun moments that bring joy and laughter, that can help. And also to recognize when your spouse or loved one is starting to, their anxiety starting to rise, that would be the right word. When you start to recognize that, to help them through that. Like if you're at somewhere and they're starting to go into anxiety attack or whatever, help remove them to a quieter place and help them, like we talked about some of the techniques yesterday, to help them breathe, pray with them, recite scripture, whatever they've shared with you that might help or what you've learned might help. That's when you can go into proactive mode. Because for me, if you catch it early enough, I can stop myself from going into a full panic attack if I catch on early enough through that. Anything else you'd like to add? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome. I thank each one of you guys for joining us today on this topic. I see some of you guys have left some comments. I will go back at the end once this is posted and reply back to you. And that letter that I just said that I wrote, I will post it in the comments below, and you can click that and actually read the whole thing. Or if you experience anxiety, you can actually share that with your loved one, and maybe that would help. Like maybe if you aren't able to write your own, I would highly suggest you to write your own, but then if you can't, feel free to share mine if it speaks to you about what you're going through. So thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next time.